had 10 times as many. All of this was bad for public health. The Board of Health statisticians in New York City found higher levels of infectious disease in dwellings and schools within 50 feet of stables than in remoter locations, the New York Times reported in 1894. According to one turn-of-the-century calculation, 20,000 New Yorkers died annually from maladies that fly in the dust, clear evidence of the dangers posed to health by reliance on horses. To make matters worse, horses were frequently overworked, and when they dropped dead, the bodies were often left rotting on the streets for several days before being dismembered and removed, posing a further health risk. By the 1880s, 15,000 dead horses were being removed from the streets of New York City each year. Paradoxically, the advent of the steam locomotive and the construction of intercity railway links, starting in the 1830s, had helped make the problem worse. Faster and more efficient transport between cities increased the demand for rapid transport of people and goods within them, which required a greater number of horse-drawn vehicles. Our dependence on the horse has grown almost pari passu, step for step, with our dependence on steam, noted one observer in 1872. The result was more horses, more manure, and steadily worsening congestion. One observer in 1870 wrote that Broadway in Manhattan was almost impassable at some times of the day. By 1890, streets in the lower part of the city are completely blocked 3 or 4 days out of the week, observed Scientific American. And when the traffic did move, it was deafening as metal horseshoes and iron-rimmed wheels clattered over uneven surfaces. In the 1890s, conversation was barely possible on New York City streets because of the sound of traffic. Straw was sometimes strewn on roads outside hospitals and some private houses to reduce the din. Pollution, congestion, and noise were merely the most obvious manifestations of a deeper dependency. An outbreak of equine influenza in North America in October 1872 incapacitated all horses and mules for several weeks, providing a stark reminder of society's reliance on animal power. The New York Times noted the disappearance of trucks, drays, express wagons, and general vehicles from the streets. The present epidemic has brought us face to face with the startling fact that the sudden loss of horse labour would totally disorganize our industry and commerce, noted The Nation. Horses and stables, the newspaper observed, are wheels in our great social machine, the stoppage of which means injury to all classes and conditions of persons, injury to commerce, to agriculture, to trade, to social life. Yet societies on both sides of the Atlantic continued to become steadily more dependent on horses. Between 1870 and 1900, the number of horses in American cities grew fourfold, while the human population merely doubled. By the turn of the century, there was 1 horse for every 10 people in Britain, and 1 for every 4 in the United States. Providing hay and oats for horses required vast areas of farmland, reducing the space available to grow food for people. Feeding America's 20 million horses required 1/3 of its total crop area, while Britain's 3.5 million horses had long been reliant on imported fodder. Horses had become both indispensable and unsustainable. To advocates of a newly emerging technology, the solution seemed obvious: get rid of horses and replace them with self-propelling motor vehicles, known at the time as horseless carriages. Today, we call them cars. In recent years, this episode, sometimes referred to as the Great Horse Manure Crisis, though nobody called it that at the time, has been cited as evidence of the power of innovation and an example of how simple technological fixes to seemingly intractable problems will show up just when they are needed, so there is no need to worry about climate change, for instance. Yet it should instead be seen as a cautionary tale in the other direction, that what looks like a quick fix today may well end up having far-reaching and unintended consequences tomorrow. The switch from horses to cars was not the neat and timely technological solution that it might seem, because cars changed the world in all kinds of unanticipated ways, from the geography of cities to the geopolitics of oil, and created many problems of their own. Today it is the motor vehicle rather than the horse that seems unsustainable. The horseless age, a magazine.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.